Please welcome Dr. June Ross Mitchell and Lily, the young subject of the book, Conversations with the Devil.
I really don't think it's a good idea, Jack. She's becoming more unpredictable.
That's a good thing. That's why we still do live TV. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for a live television first as we attempt to commune with the devil.
David, thank you again for joining me to talk about this fantastic movie, Late Night with the Devil.
Thank you, Jess. You know you're my horror homie, and I
Yeah.
love getting to talk to you. And this is one of those movies that I knew you were gonna respond to. I just had a very strong feeling. I go, this is a movie
man.
that Jessica Dwyer is gonna go for.
I did. I'm like, I'm gonna have to rewatch this again because there's so many little things that are just beautifully done, that are subtle, and and so many things I can't talk about on without spoiling it. So I'm just gonna dive in here. And first thing that I wanted to ask you about, first of all, nice Svengoolie Berwyn shout out. Everybody watch for that.
That was so fun that they let me do that. I was like, guys, can I just do a little bit of improvising in my monologue? And they said, yeah, of course. I said, all right. I feel like it's my first night of Night Owls. I want to give a shout out. And so I haven't told Rich, I haven't told Jim, I haven't told anybody from the Svengoolie crew, but I hope that when they all go see it, that they get a big kick out of that moment.
I started laughing, and my husband looked at me like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, oh, it's fun. You don't understand. But so this just, first off, I wanted to ask you about, there's aspects of this that is to do with the satanic panic, of course, of this late 70s, early 80s. But also, I wanted to know about your reaction to the script, because there's things in here that are very real, and such as I did some research because I'm like, I know I've heard of this, the Bohemian Club and the Skull and Bones
Bohemian
groups.
Grove. It's a real thing.
Yeah,
And
it's terrifying.
when I was reading the script for the first time, all of the detail that Colin and Cameron Cairns put into building the world of the script is, as they say, the devil made details of the incredible film that they made. But for me, all of that stuff, what it does is it helps make the walls, the plaster, the carpet, the roof of this house, of this story that we're going to tell. But underneath it, the beating heart is the real emotional journey of a man who has unresolved trauma, has not processed the grief of losing his wife, has a insanely high pressure job that is about to implode because he's getting clobbered by Carson at this point in 1977. So you infuse all of that pathos and all of that drama, all that character, good, juicy stuff, and that meat and blood into a world that is, structured around things that really did exist at that time, like Bohemian Grove, and what connection they may have had with people in power, celebrities, politicians, etc. And you start to wonder, if you had access to things that could help you pull the levers of your own success or well-being, what would you do? And what I love about this movie, it poses a really tough question for the audience, because Jack, who I'm portraying, was up against the wall so intensely that this one fateful Halloween night, when his show is about to be canned, he bends the workings of his ethical compass to justify putting things on television that night that just shouldn't have been. Or maybe they should have been. I don't know. It's an ethical quandary, but for Jack, He really, I think pushing those limits, a lot of us could relate to that. If you could save your career, if you could bring back the memory of your lost loved one, what compromises would you make in your own ethics and morality?
Well, and as you're watching this, you're like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? And you can see one thing I thought you conveyed beautifully was he he's so broken and filled with sorrow, and you see this desperation within him, like there's so many chances dangled in front of him, and that's the temptation.
Yeah.
That's how the devil reels you in, is like,
Yep.
oh, look here. Oh, there's a name you recognize. Oh, there's a voice. And oh, the ratings are going up. Oh, the ratings are blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, no, don't.
What's the price you would pay? What is the deal with the devil that you would make? And I really hope when the audience experiences the film that they will get lost in this beautifully constructed 1970s, nostalgic feeling of what it was like watching television. And for young audiences who don't remember that stuff,
Yeah.
they're, I think, going to be really fascinated with like the way that TV and late night TV was constructed at that time.
Well, that was one thing I wanted to ask you about, because you and I grew up watching Carson and Letterman, and we remember the ridiculousness of it when there was only three networks, kids. There
Three
was
networks,
only
kids. Think
three.
about that.
And it was live television, and you that just alone was its own, like, nervous factory of, oh my God, we got this and people don't know about that now. Like young kids, 20 somethings won't know, and then they'll see this and they'll be like, how did they do that? Very
Wild.
difficultly,
It's
and a lot of
wild.
alcohol.
Yeah. Well, and you see it, you see the effect that it has on Jack. So you've got Jack Delroy, who I'm playing. He is so stressed. He's so overworked. He hasn't slept. He's drinking way too much. He's lost his wife, the love of his life, and he hasn't even begun to process that. So you thrust that energy into that manic 1970s. It's like the movie Network. Kevin Smith gave the best pull quote next to the one Stephen King did, when he said, I love this blanking movie. It's like Network meets Rosemary's Baby. And I was just like, Kevin, I can't ask for a better
Well
endorsement than
done.
that.
Well, and it's true. And the other part of this I wanted to ask you about too was just the art of this, the way you've got a recreation so well done of the 70s, the costumes, your sideburns, just the flared bottom pants. When your producer came out, we were like, oh, there's an outfit that
Yeah,
is great. And I wanted to
I
ask
love
you
it.
about bringing that back to life. What was that like for you?
I mean, the team that Colin and Cameron surrounded themselves with were so incredible, and we had very tight budget. This is a small, low budget independent film. We shot in Melbourne, Australia, because that's where the directors are based. They have a team of artists that they've made independent films with before. We shot at Dockland Studios in a very, very, very short schedule, maybe 14 days, 15 days, I can't remember, but it was very tight. And their production designer was a guy who built TV sets for like game shows. The
Oh,
camera
perfect.
team, they were using those old wonderful TV cameras. They were shooting it on contemporary cameras, but they were, angling and setting up shots as if they were really from that time. And even the set decoration with the Halloween decor, the live band, all of it made my job so easy so that I could show up, go into work, and feel like I was on the set of a live talk show. I mean, what a gift as an actor. It was almost like going back to the stage.
Well, and that was the other thing I wanted to ask was, I loved, and I have to know how difficult this is for you as an actor and everyone else. You are trained not to look at the camera.
Right,
And
right.
here you are, just you know, and then by the way, Ingrid is just amazing.
She's so good. She's
Well
so good.
done.
Yeah,
But I love
she's
those
like,
little, the just the little looking and
yeah.
that
Yeah.
was so
She's
great.
gonna give Linda Blair a run for her money with like most terrifying child performance in a
Oh my
possession film.
But I had to ask, how was it to do that and have to break yourself of, no, I have to look directly at it.
It was really hard. All of it was really hard. These are not muscles that come easily to me. Being a talk show host means being able to just quickly improvise and make little quips and be funny and land punchlines and kind of you got to get the audience in the palm of your hand. And I don't usually portray roles like that. So all of that was very scary for me, as well as trying to find a way to connect with the at-home TV viewer who ultimately we know is going to be you guys, the movie viewers, the people
Right.
watching this movie. But I wanted you to feel like you're sitting at home watching this TV show. So trying to look into the eye of the camera, which by the way always reminds me of Hal
Oh.
in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like I'm staring into Hal's eye and I'm trying to reach through thousands of miles and millions of viewers into their living rooms and just connect with them. It's hard, and it goes against my natural training as an actor to never look at the camera. Um, and then I had this wonderful gift because they put a studio audience out there on the days that I had like the big monologue
Oh,
and some of
nice.
those moments where I'm talking. So that was cool because I could look out and be like, "Oh, any Yankees fans? We had a big game last night. Who's out there? Oh, there you are. Hi, how are you? Yeah, looking good. Nice costume. I love that. That's great." That stuff was just gold. It was such a gift.
That's great. Well, one thing, speaking of like the set and all of this, and I wanted to ask if this was on purpose because I caught this pretty early on, and I'm like, oh, when you're standing there talking to the camera, you're in front of the owl on the door, and just
Yes.
so happens the horns are right above your head of the owl. Was that meant to be?
That is the boys. That is Colin and Cameron all the way. That is like the kind of detail that these guys can infuse into the film. The way that the the color transition works on the set, the way that like the palettes go, the way that the quick camera swipes and the microphones coming into shot, all of those little details, but the framing of like me standing in front of that and seeing that stuff that I didn't even clock until I'm watching cuts of the movie. They're
Yeah.
so fun. Oh,
What was funny was you have your Christopher Lee back there, and it reminded me of that shot from Sleepy Hollow where he's standing there and he's pointing down, and the wings of justice are like, there they are. He's Dracula.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Just these happy accidents on screen.
Something that you would have loved, speaking of with happy accidents, to you get to have a visceral quality to this kind of cinema when you're playing with practical effects. And almost everything that you see when it comes to the horror elements of this film was done through practical
I was gonna say it was
special effects.
beautifully done.
And it was so beautifully done. You're going to see flesh torn in ways and disgusting things coming out of bodies in ways that like was only possible to do and achieve the way that the boys wanted to achieve it by having it done live there on set. And it
Oh
was like,
God.
it was so awesome. So awesome.
Well, and one thing, one of those things that you're talking about that I'm not going to spoil reminded me so hard. And I was just like, oh God, they're doing it. They're doing it. I'm like, but it reminded me of EC Comics almost, like the overtness of it. And
Very much.
there's one EC comic that always, I'm pretty sure it was EC Comics, stuck with me that reminded me of so much.
Yeah.
And I was like getting queasy. So you have that to look forward to, people, to get sick to your
Eerie and Creepy magazine, huge influences on the tonal world, as are everything from classic Cassavetes films like Network, shows like Dick Cavett, Johnny Carson, um, the Don Lane show, which if people aren't familiar with, are fascinating old episodes that you can find on the internet, meets something like Ghost Watch.
Yep.
To me, that's a really powerful mode of storytelling that was the grandfather or grandmother, if you will, of movies like The Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity. In fact, Steven Schneider and Roy Lee, these are producers on this film, like helped to shape films like Paranormal Activity. And then also on the producing side, we have Joel Anderson, whose masterpiece, Lake Mungo,
Oh man.
I think was an incredible resource for the filmmakers because they're very good friends with Joel. And we always would reference Lake Mungo and the way that the audience was able to see a film that was based in reality. Even though it's a terrifying horror narrative, there's a lot of reality that this is swimming in.
Well, one thing, I have a couple more questions because I know I'm probably going to lose you soon, but I had to ask about that amazing trailer. How did you get the voice of the 70s trailer guy? Was that AI? Who was
Yes,
that?
I wish I could take credit for that. I don't know who that performer is, but he is brilliant. But I will say, in the film, for those of you, when you go see this film on March 22nd in theaters everywhere and you're sitting in the cinema, the opening of the film is a bit documentary style. And there is a voiceover delivered by the legend, Michael Ironside,
Yes.
who I can't believe I am now in a movie with I've been in movies with some very cool people. Harrison Ford, to name one, and many, many more. As you know, I've gotten to be in so many cool
Yeah.
movies with so many cool actors. Being in a film where Michael Ironside is listed in the credits alongside me is pretty huge.
He's Han Tyler. He's Han Tyler, man. He's such a sweetheart too. I got to meet him a while back at a con, and he just was a sweet guy.
I've never met him, and when they told me we got him for the voice, I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. I flipped out, and he nailed it so hard. It's so good. And so does the whole cast. If you watch this film, you're going to see performers. All of them are Australian. I'm the only American that was in the cast, but are amazing. Fazil, who plays our psychic that comes on at the beginning of the film, to Reese, who plays my wonderful co-host, and then the cast of characters that come on the show as my guests. All of them, I think, brought performances that elevated this to a space where it is genuinely, we recreated a real Night of the Night Owls talk show. It really feels like you're watching an actual episode of Night Owls. I'm so proud of that.
It's so great. And I wanted to ask about one line in it that really stood out for me, and I was curious your take on it, which is, and it kind of, who's the devil that we're spending the late night with that line, we all have demons in us. And that line is just so chef's kiss in terms of this whole movie. I was curious about your take on that, and it could go either way.
We contain multitudes, as the great Walt Whitman said. I believe we are brimming with angels and demons, all of us within us, and they are manifestations of ourselves. I believe that there are many, many, many of ourselves living within ourselves from different points in our own history, moments when we were traumatized, moments when we laughed, moments when we loved, moments when we felt completely abandoned. And the way that those entities, if you will, who exist within us, take control of the ship that is our present self can be so uplifting at times, valuable at times, but can also, when we don't have control, when we've not developed the tools or the skills for how to manage them, can be devastating, terrifying, horrifying. The devil within us all, the demon that lives within us all, is for me, let's say, like my addiction or my battles with depression, anxiety, things that live beneath the surface. So I have tools and techniques and ways that I can continue to be present, but not allow that to take control of the steering wheel, if you will. In this film, we're going to see the power of the human mind and the way that sometimes, unintentionally or not, giving over that power of who's steering the ship can not just be dangerous, it can literally be deadly. And that's the horror of Late Night with the Devil.
That's spot on. And the horrifying fact of it is this could be real. This has in ways happened, and we've seen people lose it on television. There's videos of all kinds of horrible things.
The Christine Chubbuck story, I remember when I saw the way that they brought that to film, I thought it was so well done. As horrifying and sad as that story is, it reminds me a lot of what happens in the world of Jack Delroy.
Yep, same. That's one of the things I was thinking about during it. I'm like, oh man, you're really good at tearing people's hearts out. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I hate you.
You're really good at making me feel good about my work. You're really good at being a horror nerd, and you're really great at loving the things that you love unabashedly. So I'm always grateful when I get a chance to talk to you, Jess. You know that. I think you're so awesome, and I'm really glad. I knew that you would respond to the film. I'm so glad that you guys had such a powerful reaction to it, and I thank you for helping me spread the word about it, because this is a tiny movie. We have a tiny marketing budget, so we need all the help we could get, getting all the horror family out there to hopefully spread word of mouth.
I will rip out all the eyeballs to put on this. That is my goal in life.
I'll literally rip worms out of my guts just to get people to go to the cinema.
Don't remind me of that. That is, oh God. But again, thank you so much, David. This was fantastic.
You're the best. I love getting to talk to you. I miss you, and we'll talk again soon. I'm quite sure of it.
By the way, you're like I think you've taken the top spot of people I've interviewed during my career. I think you're number 6. This is the 6th time we've gotten to talk about something. You work too much, is what we're saying.
That's great. I'm going to keep coming at you. Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
you
buddy.
so much.